Hi, good morning, good afternoon or good evening. I'm Janet Cernak from Melbourne in Australia from an organisation called Imagination. And we are a collective of passionate innovation, strategy, learning and coaching professionals. And we work globally to collaborate to provide the best opportunities and solutions for organisations, teams and people to adapt and grow in uncertain and disruptive times like we're all having now. So at Imagination, we support organisations to identify and resolve blind spots so that leaders and especially teams can enable, ignite and mobilise meaningful and purposeful change by developing their ability to be agile, creative, inventive and innovative. So for us, it's not only about survival, it's certainly about flourishing. So I'm very delighted to be participating today in the practice stream. So here we are, and you can see that I'm presenting on creative inquiry to generate discovery in an uncertain word. And my quote, we're going to play with the notions of chaos and being wrong and being stupid and being foolish, because I think we can have some fun with that and learn how to be, think and act differently. So where might we go with these amazing words? So here we are, very much as coaching professionals, we know how important it is to continuously learn how to improve our practices, which is why you're investing your time and energy in this amazing summit. So good on you. So we not only want to improve our practices, we also want to improve the impact that we have on our clients. And we talk a lot about at Imagination that we do this by providing value in ways they appreciate and cherish. So this is very much a heart-centered approach. And we do this because we're now at a very critical 21st century turning point. And when we talk about turning points, they're just really moments in time when a significant change can occur. And we say that all these critical changes, and I'm going to share some of those with you, are actually occurring as we speak at this moment. So we say that all of these turning points are opportunities to reboot through discovery, and that's certainly where we're going to play in this session today. So you can see that I've got 3 points or 3 session focus points. And hopefully we will cover all of those. I'm sure we will. And what I'm going to do is to try and be very coherent with a lot of new language and a lot of new concepts that are going to be very important to 21st century success. So this should enable you to be just that little bit more open-minded and open-hearted to experiment in your own practice with new ways of being, thinking and acting. And why is that important? Because for us, especially as coaches and mentors, we need to, and some of us are trainers and consultants as well, we need to stay resourceful, capable and relevant in what has become very much a niche-driven, disrupted, digitised and increasingly competitive global coaching market. So I'm just going to spend a few moments on this slide. It's from the work of Otto Scharmer at the Presencing Institute, where I had the opportunity in 2008 to actually go to MIT in Boston and learn from Otto and Peter Senge. And since then, I've been advancing this methodology or this process or this way of being through all of our work in learning and coaching and teaming. And it's called Theory U. And I'm sure that the one thing I'm pretty sure that most of us agree with from a global perspective is that there are 3 fundamental and core truths that often inhibit us from stepping into the field of the future, as you can see at the top of the graphic. The first thing is we can't, and it's pretty obvious, we can't always keep on doing the same thing and expecting a different result. The second thing is that we can't keep on delivering results that no one wants. And the third thing is we can't solve problems with the same thinking or worldviews that created them. So this actually represents a threshold where we have an opportunity to learn how to cross by discovering how to be, think and act differently and create some intentional shifts in structures, systems and models. And now is the time to break those rules by diving deeply into the U process, and just giving you a very simple, quick overview of what that means. It's really about holding the space for listening. It starts with listening to others, listening to oneself, and listening to what emerges from the collective and from the field. So this whole presentation is really about deep listening, deep inquiry, and deep differing. And yet it's artful, it's skillful, and it takes a lot of compassion and connection, a lot of curiosity and creativity, and a lot of confidence and courage to go there. So pretty much, and this is going to be just like the meta frame for what I'm going to share with you, it's about downloading the patterns of the past that are no longer relevant or useful. It's about being able to suspend judgment and see with fresh eyes, to redirect our attention to be fully present to what is going on in the system or in the field. So it's about sensing and perceiving, letting go of old ideas and old structures and mental models, connecting to our deepest and source of self and inner wisdom and intuition and whatever you hold to be divine, and let change come. And then what we do is we crystallize, we prototype, and we perform, and I can go into explaining all of that. So in a lot of ways, it's very much a deep reflective practice or a prequel to taking what we call intelligent action. And that's going to be really important in the 21st century. So there are just 3 fundamental steps, and I'm just going to touch on them really briefly. The first step is to heighten your ability to observe by paying deep attention, suspending judgment and seeing yourself as part of the system. Step 2 requires us to take regular retreat and reflective practices through introspection, contemplation, awe and wonder. And then that allows us to move quickly to step 3, which is the ability to act in an instant with yourself, with the system and with clients. And at Imagination, we describe this as an agility shift. And that's very simply the ability to make an intentional shift in changing contexts. Now, I'm going to share with you in a moment some of those changing contexts that we need to be able to ourselves make agility shifts and help our clients do this. So crossing the threshold and stepping into the field of the future in a volatile, ambiguous and complex environment, what we really want to do is we want to co-create new landing strips full of opportunities and possibilities for a future that we or our clients may not have previously imagined. So that's the exciting space we're going to work in. So just take a quick moment to consider how familiar you might be with these 4 sentences. And then as you do that, consider how well do you really understand them and their impact on what is happening now in the social field or in the system or simply in the business environment. And then imagine how you might define them and how might you describe how they might be impacting on your clients personally and professionally. And you might want to put some notes into the chat box at this point in time. So we really, as coaches, consultants and mentors, we need to take that first step and attend and observe to the key trends that are emerging, diverging and converging in our operating environments. What are they and what do they truly mean? So very simply and very quickly, because I have to speed talk today, exponential change is being largely driven by digital disruption, which is creating and accelerating innovation. COVID-19 pandemic is an opening or a crack or even a tipping point for deep systemic change. And for those of you that don't know what a tipping point is, it's that magic moment when an idea, trend or social behaviour crosses a threshold, tips and spreads like wildfire. And for some of you, if you're in Europe, you've got the end result of our lack of inaction to respond to the tipping point of climate change. And McKinsey is saying that the coronavirus is not only a health and political crisis of immense proportion, it's also an imminent shift in restructuring of the global economic order. A paradigm shift is a major change in concepts and practices. We're experiencing a major one in corporate learning and certainly in corporate culture change, and iterations and pivots. You probably heard those terms, and they involve making specific and considered choices to change your strategy. So, for example, here at Imagination, we redirected our strategy from being a culture change company, and now we're a global innovation, learning and coaching company. So what does this mean in real life? It means that we're entering both a decade of disruption and a decade of transformation. So do you want to be at the effect of disruption, or do you want to be the catalyst for transformation? Coaching, we are in an amazing position to actually help people do both. And notice that I talk about both and, because that's what I'm going to go into. So if we look at that, we've got the opportunity to empathise with our clients to help them transition to what might be their new normal. We might help our clients make those intentional shifts in changing contexts quickly to co-create new business models. Certainly, we need a whole package of new skills. People don't have the time and money to learn the way that they did in the past. We need to be able to help people work in this new virtual hybrid world of work. Business transformations, it's really interesting. Organisations are either doing agile, digital or culture transformations. How can we help them adapt, innovate and grow through that? And then finally, if we go to the edges of the social field, we have wicked problems, global wicked problems that are often difficult or impossible to solve because of incomplete, contradictory and changing requirements. So that really puts us in an incredible position to help clients cross that threshold. So how do we do that? And again, it's pretty obvious. We need to hit our pause buttons, and we need to help our clients hit their pause buttons. Stop doing stuff to actually retreat and reflect about what is really going on, and then help them reboot by discovering innovative ways of supporting them to reboot their teams, their business practices and organisations by enabling them to, through creative inquiry, to discover new ways of being, thinking and acting differently. So here we go. What do you notice about this cartoon? It's just like in the cartoon, no one wants the garbage dumped in their waters, suggesting that there's no one best way of handling what is happening now. nor how the rate of exponential change, the relentless pace of digital disruption, and the complex range of events might impact the future. And as I said, we can't keep on throwing money at it, or we'll be in debt for generations to come. Nor can we keep on locking people down. Welcome to Melbourne, it's our 6th lockdown, and risk our economy and social structures and collapses in people's mental health. Nor can we let our businesses and professions keep on failing. So we have this time as an opportunity to be a true turning point in which to make some very important discoveries, to help us make some very fundamental choices to discover the kind of future, the kind of results we want to have. And a little bit, it's very paradoxical. So, if we're going to be pirates, why join the Navy if you can be a pirate? We need to learn how to dance in the disequilibrium that brings. So just take a moment to share in the chat box a personal or professional turning point that has occurred for you in the past 12 months. What opportunities have emerged for you to reboot moving forwards? And if this current window has opened a window in time for everybody to pause, retreat and reflect, then what changes are opportune for you. And remember that constraints, and especially the constraints of the COVID-19 pandemic, breeds incredible creativity. We've seen boutique beer producers here in Australia suddenly start to manufacture hand sanitizers, and cafes turn into general stores. And a lot of us, the constraint of not being able to do face-to-face work has enabled us to all work online. So just take a moment to hit your own pause buttons and acknowledge yourselves for what you have already done, and we can discuss that at a later point. So how does this start? How do we do it? So I'm just going to share a couple of key steps. We do run 24 hours of learning, so I'm only giving you 45 minutes, so I'm going to run through it really quickly. So when we talk about suspending judgment, we really talk about being willing and open to adopt what we call a beginner's mindset. And we just talk about being in the space of not knowing and challenging our assumptions and playing and experimenting with the art of the possible. So just to give you a personal example, some 12 years ago, my husband and I and my 2 dogs and our pussycat relocated to the Middle East due to what you might call a crisis in meaning. So very quickly, leaving Australia at the top of my field with a very humanistic approach to leadership and teams and culture, I landed in a hierarchically structured environment and a survival culture where everything that I knew was not valued and it wasn't relevant. So rather than blaming my new world for not wanting me, I was able to let go of my certifications, accreditations, many of my mental models and structures and methods, and adopted a beginner's mindset. And I asked them questions like, what can I learn from this culture and this experience? What can I experiment and play with that will add value to the quality of people's lives in a way they appreciate and cherish? And whilst it was a massively uncomfortable reinvention process, I was able to create Imagination as an Israeli startup in the innovation space. And that was all from coming from a beginner's mindset. The second thing to do is to be willing to unlearn and relearn. So in many aspects of our businesses and practices, we're operating with old paradigms and old mental models that are probably outdated or obsolete, like mine were when I relocated to the Middle East. So it might be strategy, marketing, leadership. It might be even transactional coaching is shifting more to transformative coaching. So to embrace the new logic of adding value to the quality of people's lives through innovation, we have to unlearn the old logic, principles and methods. So it's the ability to choose an alternative mental model or paradigm. It's not about forgetting. So when we learn, we add new skills or knowledge to what we already know. When we unlearn, we step outside the mental model in order to choose a different one. So many of those paradigms we learned in school or college or university and built our professional careers on are no longer relevant. So going back to my example, in the Middle East, I had to absolutely let go of the old. But when we do that, we create the empty space for the new learning to happen. And through deeply attending and observing what was driving the entrepreneurial lifestyle and the innovation culture, I was able to actually model it, develop a model of how do people be, think and act in this environment. And that enabled me to develop a whole new innovation learning curriculum, new language concepts and principles with the intention at the time of reinventing corporate learning. So, everything that we teach and our collective teachers, we've all had to walk the talk, learn by failing fast and live our values and make a difference through relearning. So it's very simply to choose an alternative mental model or paradigm and perspective, and we can all do that. So some of the elements that we have to deal with is that in a volatile world, we have less stability. So we need to be very clear on what vision we want to have in moving forwards. In a volatile, uncertain, complex and ambiguous world, we have less certainty. So we need to build languages and education where people can develop a common understanding of what is really going on. And with complexity, we need to find simple, where we have less simplicity, we need to find clearer ways of getting our message across, being clearer about structure, systems, communications, decision-making, problem-solving. We need to make things simpler, go 80-20, let go of perfectionism, all of those wonderful things. And with so much ambiguity, we have less predictability. So we need to cultivate our agility, which is, as I said, the ability to shift in changing contexts quickly. So here we go. Really, it's about dancing in disequilibrium. So what does that mean? Well, we all know that disequilibrium is basically when things are out of balance. I just like the words. So it means that every organisation, regardless of its size and specialisation, requires its leaders and teams to pay deep attention and develop systemic awareness, to step outside of these old mental models and paradigms, become consciously aware of who we're being and the mindsets that we embody and the behaviours we enact, to choose, experiment, discover and make distinctions and relearn how to shift towards feeling and thinking differently, to maximise paradox, differences and diversity, and to develop innovation, agility and to be effective. So it's a little bit about what I did in the Middle East. And when we do that, again, we're being present to what is. So when we talk about trying to create balance or even harmony, we have to totally be present to what is, and then through creative inquiry, to elicit, evoke and provoke what could be, and we have to do that simultaneously. So how do we do that? Well, we start to develop a very simple way of saying that, radical candor. So radical candor, taking the definition, just simply means to be a good coach, a good boss, a good leader, you have to care personally and at the same time, so it's both and, challenge directly. So how do we do that? Well, we attend and observe, we question, we listen, we inquire, we differ, provoke, and evoke, and we be not nice, because nice means nothing. I do cares enough. And what we're aiming to do through creative inquiry is to emerge, diverge and converge ideas to discover creative possibilities and connections not previously imagined. And here's how we do it. We work with our clients, everybody at the moment, including ourselves. You know, I've got COVID-19 lethargy, and here in Australia we're languishing. So a lot of people are being very reactive. They're out there demonstrating against the government and lockdown. Typically in transactional coaching, we teach people to be responsive and to be proactive. Yay, I'm going to go out. I know what my goal is. I know what my strategies are and my action steps. In this new world, what we need to cultivate as the skill set is to actually evoke different ways of thinking, or what we call generative thinking or meta thinking. And we've got to provoke, which means we've got to be far more challenging. And when we challenge, we then can come up with creative ideas and innovative solutions, which is what the world needs to deal with those trends that I shared earlier in the session. So this means that we need to enhance our consciousness, our capacity, our confidence, our competence and agility to improvise, create and innovate. So how do we do that? Well, typically in transactional coaching, as I just explained, we shift clients from being reactive to being proactive, pretty simple. We create the environment, discover the problem, explore, generate options, choose the best actions, and we get commitment and accountability. Of course, creating that safe container. In innovation coaching, what we're actually doing is creating what we call a very deep and safe holding space to explore and discover the systemic nature of the problem or opportunity, to be safely disruptive, provocative, evocative, to challenge the status quo, to challenge their people's structures, mental models, beliefs, to then emerge, diverge and converge possibilities, provocate, evoke creative options, and to actually choose creative ideas. So we're spending much more time, like you do probably at MCC level, to come up with the idea without jumping straight to solution. So we get, as Albert Einstein says, spend 55 minutes on understanding the problem, then we can crystallize our vision, prototype our solution and enact as we do when we use Theory U. And as we said, it all starts with attending to your listening. So again, referring to the work of Otto Scharmer, this is fundamental to the work we do. There are 4 levels of listening, questioning and conversing, and this very much, as coaches, we're pretty good at noticing our biases, our habits, our shadow side, our old opinions and judgments. We're pretty good at challenging people who want to be right and listen through difference. And most of us are pretty good at being empathic and connecting emotionally with our clients. What capability we need to do, or competence we need to do, is to listen from the bottom of the U, is to listen from source, and we call that generative listening, from the future that is wanting to emerge. So that means that we need to open our minds to dispel our voices of judgment, and we need to work with our clients to open their minds as well. to dispel our voices of cynicism and dispel our voices of fear. And you can see when we do that, we very much ignite our heart intelligence through connection and compassion, our cognitive intelligence through curiosity and creativity. Then we can take intelligent action because we've ignited our gut intelligence to be confident and courageous. So it's about unconditionally witnessing to truly see what is really going on in the system, being unconditionally loving to truly hold each other with tolerance, safety, permission and trust, and being unconditionally courageous and confident to truly support each other to be, think and act differently in ways that are very challenging, very disruptive and very uncomfortable. So we talk about developing discomfort resilience. So here we go, the generative discovery skill set that I am going to quickly share with you. It's really designed to harness people's individual and collective intelligence. So it's just really orchestrating conflict, exploring and navigating disagreement, dissent and deviance, being intentionally disruptive, contrary, questioning and challenging. And what we do if we do that is we explore and provoke the discovery of creative and inventive ways of being, thinking and acting. And it's good fun, and people are really appreciative of going there because you are really operating in that space of infinite possibility and creating that bridge between being human and operating in a technological world. We're maximizing our humanity when we do this. So you might want to ask, how do we do that? So again, it's through artful questioning. So pretty simple, come from the beginner's mind, be willing to unlearn, be willing to flow with what is and with what could be, cultivate elastic thinking skills, pay deep attention, be flexible and focused. So here's our generative discovery cycle. This is the work that we've developed over the past couple of years. The first thing that we do is we orchestrate and we direct very intentional who, what, where and where questions to problem find, fact find and problem define. And we ask who, what, when and where causal questions. So here's the thing is that we're spending so much more time describing the territory and the current reality. So what's really going on in the system? What is the specific nature and impact of the problem or opportunity? Why is it happening? What are the operating mindsets, mental models and assumptions impacting the problem or opportunity? So we spend a lot of time there, and being a great coach, if you ask me how long you spend there, I'll say, well, it depends. Where we move to next is we move to actually disrupting the territory through what we call debate, and the intent is to emerge, explore and collide ideas. So in this instance, we ask deeper what, why and why not questions, because we want to ideate and catalyze that much deeper, different way of thinking. We then move into the idea defining and deciding phase. We talk about affecting human collisions, which then allow us to shift into refining and deciding on what idea we might move forwards with by asking some questions you might be more familiar with. What if and how might we, which are possibility questions. The key point is that we don't jump straight to solution. It's about emerging possibilities and discovering creative ideas that engage people. So we've got to engage them, and we've got to build their confidence and their conviction. and their willingness to experiment with failing fast and then to iterate and pivot their ideas into innovative solutions. So we had intended to do a quick demo, and maybe in the question time at the end we'll be able to do that. So probably the best use of our time would be to share some question examples. So typically when we're operating in the problem definition stage, we'll ask questions that some of you may be familiar with. What is your problem or opportunity? What exactly would you like to achieve by solving this problem or maximising this opportunity? What do you really think or truly feel about that, and what else? And you'll notice that we've got head and heart questions, and these questions have been very much intentionally patterned. And what you do is you dance across them and you integrate your transactional coaching prowess with this new transformative approach. So what do you really think might have caused that problem or opportunity? How could you really think differently, and how is that important to you? So as I said, you know, these are just 3 examples from a selection of maybe 12 or 15 questions. So now you've sensed and you've perceived on the left-hand side of the U what is really going on in the system, and you've suspended judgment, and you're coming from a beginner's open mind and from not knowing. And as you're doing this, you're learning about the core essence of where your coachee is coming from. When we move into the next phase, we can ask questions like, what would a significant breakthrough look like? What do you truly believe? What would be possible? What is truly value? You'll notice that these are much more feeling and heart-centered questions. What could be possible? Why is it so important? Why not think differently about it? So we are being deliberately provocative and evocative, and we spend as much time as we need to there because we've created that safety, that collective holding space. You can actually go very deeply into a lot of difference and deviation and conflict and very deep challenge. So we're catalysing different thinking. Once we've done that, we can continue the debate by asking the possibility questions, what if and how might we? So what if you could reframe the problem into an opportunity? What if that didn't work? How might you feel if it didn't? What if there were no limitations? How might you feel, and what would you do? How might we think differently about that? So notice my language is shifted from you to we. Notice that we're really playing now. How might we introduce? How might we explore that idea? How might we inspire people to deeply connect and engage in that idea? So the key reference points is that in doing this, we're not jumping straight to solution. We are emerging possibilities and discovering creative ideas. We are engaging people and building their commitment and their willingness to experiment and to fail fast from it. And we are giving them an opportunity to iterate and pivot, prototype solutions. So this is what Creative Insight is all about. How does it manifest then in the coaching cycle? Well, I have mentioned that we very much create a container, a safe collective holding space, and we do that by following our coaching model. So the first thing that we do is we form a passionate purpose, or of course before that even our preparation is taking that disciplined path of inner self-management, developing consciousness, emotional agility and mental toughness. As you all know, change is a bit of a roller coaster ride, so we need to have discomfort resilience. We need to have that agility. We need to have a reason why, which is our passionate purpose. our own unique necessity, our own clearly defined problem or business opportunity. And we have to believe that somewhere out there is a solution to the problem or an opportunity for your possibility. The next thing that we do is we connect to self, other, and the system and make sure that that container is very safe. And we then start to observe and immerse ourselves and see with fresh eyes through exploration of new possibilities by asking disruptive questions and listening from the whole. We then discover and emerge creative ideas and insights by asking those disruptive questions again and listening from the whole. And we diverge and converge and debate creative ideas to start to design those into innovative solutions. And then, of course, we develop iterative prototypes and we deliver commercial outcomes. But here's the thing, is that whether you're going to be in the change game in the 21st century or, you want to play in the innovation space with us, it's really important to cultivate your own consciousness. And I came out of the closet when I was living in the Middle East, realizing that attempting to become a peace activist, the only peace I could effect or catalyse was my own inner peace. So I really focus on teaching innovation through consciousness, through helping people lift their own states and qualities of mind, and certainly helping leaders and teams find a bit more inner peace in these challenging times through being grounded, mindful and consciousness. It's only then when we're fully present that we can bring the new to mind, which is where creativity happens. When we bring the new to mind, we can then focus on bringing the new to the world, which is what innovation is bringing new to the world in ways that create value that people appreciate and cherish. And we can all do that. It just takes intention. So whilst we're at this turning point, you might want to take a moment to consider, hit your pause, retreat, reflect and reboot buttons. What exactly might you like to achieve by maximising this moment in time as an opportunity for discovery? How important is that for you? How do you truly feel and really think about that? What could be possible? What discovery might be truly valuable for your clients or customers in ways they appreciate and cherish? And then my favourite question of all times, and please write this one down, what if you thought differently about that? And you will be amazed at what people will say. So if you do this, you have the opportunity to reimagine, reinvent, rescale, reactivate and reset a compelling future, and use this time, this moment in disruption, or this decade of disruption and transformation, to create value in ways that people appreciate and cherish. As coaches, as mentors and trainers, facilitators, consultants, we are all able to do that, so we can help equip people for the future. So finally, how might you reboot your coaching practice to survive and thrive? So both and in a disruptive VUCA world. And remember, you are responsible for your own experience, and the terror is understandable. I did survive 6 years in the Middle East, and I managed to, on the one hand, develop discomfort, resilience, but also certainly develop my courage, my compassion, and my creativity to hopefully make my contribution to making the world a better place. So I'll ask you to again contemplate, wander into wandering as I close this session. What are you not seeing? What are you not feeling? What action are you not taking yet? And go forwards. Possible in the world, possible for me. It's only a matter of how. And thank you so much for being with me today. I really appreciate it. And here's where you can find me and the collective at Imagination.